Thank you, Dennis. This resolution has been a long time coming, and I want to start by reading the Be It Resolved, since those are the parts that we have the opportunity as a hearing to amend. Therefore, be it resolved that we, the annual meeting of the Pacific Northwest Conference of the United Church of Christ, in all aspects of its administrative, program, and worship life, declare the Pacific Northwest Conference to be open and affirming, ONA, of all persons, including those who are lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgendered. Be it further resolved that we, the churches of the Pacific Northwest Conference of the United Church of Christ, will continue a committed, prayerful, and respectful dialogue with one another as we seek God's guidance for greater biblical and theological understanding of important issues, including those relating to human sexuality. And be it further resolved that the annual meeting of the Pacific Northwest Conference of the United Church of Christ recognizes that each congregation within the conference can make its own decision in its own time. Be it further resolved that the annual meeting of the Pacific Northwest Conference of the United Church of Christ encourages its member churches to study and be in conversation about human sexuality, the sacredness of all mutually affirming relationships, the gifts of different gender identities, and other related issues. In light of that study, and in covenant with God and one another, prayerfully consider adopting an open and affirming statement in full inclusion similar to that of the conference. And finally, be it further resolved that the Pacific Northwest Conference of the United Church of Christ reaches this decision because we affirm the responsibility of the church in each generation to make this faith its own in reality of worship, in honesty of thought and expression, and in purity of heart before God. And that is from paragraph 2 of the preamble to the UCC Constitution. Before I speak to it, I want to correct one typo that you may have caught in the fourth Be It Resolved. It should say United Church of Christ. It unfortunately says Untied. I can't tell you how many eyes looked at this before it came to you. Hanging on the wall outside the sanctuary here, there are several UCC posters talking about why we love our church. My favorite is the one that says, "I love the UCC because we're giraffes, not turtles. We're not afraid to stick our necks out." The 10th through the 14th General Synod of our denomination adopted resolutions encouraging the inclusion and affirming the human rights of lesbian, gay, and bisexual people within the United Church of Christ. The 15th General Synod encourages a policy of non-discrimination in employment, volunteer service, and membership policies with regard to sexual orientation, and encourages associations, conferences, and all related organizations to adopt a similar policy, and encourage the congregations of the United Church of Christ to adopt a non-discrimination policy and a covenant of openness and affirmation of persons of lesbian, gay, bisexual orientation within the community of faith. That was in 1985, folks. The 24th General Synod in 2003 added affirmation of people who are transgendered. In 2005, a resolution was passed by the 25th General Synod for marriage equality. 15th General Synod, when it asked us to consider this issue, 1985, 26 years ago. It is time for the Pacific Northwest Conference to make this statement that we are open and affirming. The reality is, we function as if we were. Dennis just told us, he asked Mike what that difference would make in his job, and Mike said none. Now it is time for us to believe out loud. It is time to publicly state our beliefs and our position. We have allowed the conservatives in Christianity to become the image of what it means to be a Christian, and it is time to assert that there are other ways of being Christian. Yesterday, I overheard one of our teens saying that their friends asked, "What kind of a church supports gays and lesbians?" Her response was, "The best kind." As I am sure you are aware, being a teen and gay, lesbian, bi, or trans puts that teen at a much, much higher risk of being homeless and/or suicidal and on the streets. We believe that God is still speaking. Shouldn't we still be speaking? We need to state publicly that we affirm that all are loved by God, that all who are gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgendered are equally loved by God as anyone else. It is time to stick out our necks. Another poster in the hall says, "I love my church because it's sort of like the Wizard of Oz. It's about having a heart and a brain and courage." It's time to be courageous. State that we are an open and affirming conference. Put it on our website. Post it at our camps. State it in the newspapers. It is time.
I don't know that I have a lot to add to what Marcia said, but let me tell you a couple of stories from Monroe Congregational United Church of Christ, which I serve as pastor. In 2003, we were considering becoming officially open and affirming. And there is a couple in the church, pillars of the church, wonderful people, but quite conservative people. He used to own a lumber mill in Monroe, and I'm sure they have voted Republican all their lives. And the wife in this couple was a little bit fussed about this open and affirming business and didn't quite understand it and was wondering if it was the right thing to do. And her husband just looked at her and said, "It's just the right thing to do, that's all." It kind of really is that simple. It's just the right thing to do. Shortly after we became open and affirming in 2003, we got a lot of publicity splashed all over the front page of the local weekly newspaper in Monroe, with pictures of two men holding hands standing in front of our door, and a headline that screams, "Church affirms gay couples," or something like that. I think that publicity was the best thing that ever happened to Monroe Congregational United Church of Christ. But I was talking about this experience with some of my clergy colleagues, and I don't remember who it was, but one of them said to me, "You may have saved the life of people you will never hear about." That's why we need to declare this conference open and affirming. People we don't know and never will know need to hear a Christian group say, all are equal, all are loved, all are accepted, and all are affirmed. That's what this resolution is about. It doesn't change anything about our conference as a practical matter, because practically speaking, the conference already is open and affirming. But it makes a statement. It makes a very important statement. It puts us where we belong, in the forefront of the liberation movement that is the open and affirming movement. That movement is gaining momentum all over the country. Our brothers and sisters in the ELCA Lutheran Church just affirmed the ordination of gay and lesbian folks. It puts us on the side of justice, it puts us on the side of what's right, and it puts us on the side of history.
I know it's hard to restrain your clapping, but I would just remind you that we may not be all of one mind, and I really don't want to intimidate people who might speak to a different opinion of this from coming to the microphone. So I would just ask you once again, if you may agree, you may disagree, but keep from responding in those kinds of ways, if you would. There were some questions, and Marcia, and I want Tom close by. What I would like to do at this point is simply open it up to questions about the therefore be it resolved of what is written here. I think you had some questions about why or the wording. And if we could talk about that for a while. I would like to open the microphone to Tom. But then I would like to open the microphone to people who, to have a dialogue, if there are different points of view about the resolution that is before us. So, first of all, let's go back there to a question you had. Yes. Well, if you can come up, that would be great so everyone can hear. And do you have questions, Tom? Yeah, come on up. And I want the presenters to have an opportunity to respond.
My question is, well, I don't know if it's a question. It's going to start off someplace else. The seventh whereas, we covenant with God and one another to extend welcome and Christian fellowship.
Okay, I'm sorry, I misunderstood you. I was thinking the therefore be it resolved. So really on the whereases.
Well, it's part of the question of the be it resolved.
Okay.
There is some incredible language of inclusivity in that whereas. And my question is there a way to bring some of that into the therefores? So I'll offer one simple one, and we can bandy this about. In the first therefore, I'm curious what it would mean to all of us to say, therefore be it resolved that we, the annual meeting of the Pacific Northwest Conference of the United Church of Christ, in all aspects of its administrative program and worship life. And here's the addition. Because we respect a deep biblical and theological interpretation. And then continues, declare the Pacific Northwest Conference to be open and affirming of all persons, including those who are lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender. So it's a question of whether that could be added or something similar.
Yeah, when we get to a point of proposing amendments, that would be appropriate. Tom, you had a question?
Yes, my name is Tom Miller. I am the moderator of the church in Anacortes. We are ONA. We proudly fly a rainbow flag when it isn't stolen. We have now put it up 30 feet so no one can get at it. In the last whereas, we mentioned the words race, age, ethnicity, nationality, etc. But we do not mention these words in the therefores. I would suggest that it be added as part of the ONA, and I would like to know why it was excluded.